Okay. Do you all have something experience in Azure or no experience at all? Serious or no?
No.
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. No problem. So let me come to the topic first here. We are going to learn Azure SQL database, right? So there are a few terms that you have to understand first. As you all know, needless to say that Azure is a cloud computing platform, or simply you can say that it's a cloud. Like we do have others cloud as well, AWS cloud, right? IBM cloud, Alibaba cloud, Google cloud. There are many clouds do we have. So earlier also, there was a kind of cloud most of the companies had. Those who are large companies, they were maintaining their own data centers. And those all data centers were connected with each other over the internet, right? So it was a form of private cloud, you can see, right? Here, two kinds of clouds are evolved. One is public cloud, which is accessible by everyone. They are providing different kinds of services. And as a customer, you or a company has to subscribe that service. In order to subscribe, your company or client has to pay, right? So there is no ownership of infrastructure or any software license under the basket of the subscriber. It's all under the cloud provider, right? So simply you have to subscribe that service in order to avail that, right? There are a lot of services. One of the services there are those SQL database service, right? Another service is there also that is related to SQL Server is called as SQL Managed Instance, right? Why they are called as a service, right? Because you don't have to pay for the license of the SQL Server behind the scenes that is used for Azure SQL database or SQL Managed Instance. You don't have to pay for the license, right? But in order to reduce your cost for the new subscription, you can use your existing license.
Okay, need to piece up.
Can you all go on mute, please? Keeper, can you go on mute? So say for example, if you have SQL Server license, say for example, under then there are different models, right? Number of one is known as core license, another is per user license, right? Third is unlimited license. So if you have on-premise license for your SQL Server, and if your company has that license, and if you are planning to migrate your SQL Server databases to Azure Cloud, then you can use your existing license in order to save the cost. There is a calculator, right, that you can use for saving the cost. I will show you when the time will come how to calculate the cost while you are planning to provision SQL databases using the hybrid benefit, right? Hybrid license benefit model that is known as. So we have been using SQL Server in our own environment for which ID I have to join. Just a minute. Let me check, guys. Someone is asking for which ID I have to join. What is this? Last issue. So invite for him. Just a minute. Let me see. I didn't send. Surprising. Okay, we will join that. What I was talking. Okay, so say for example, you have SQL Server, or a company has SQL Server hosted on VMs in their own data center. So for that, they have purchased a license. It doesn't matter under which license model they have purchased, whether it is vCode, whether it is limited license, or it is per user license, right? Or it is per code license, whatever form of license is there. Or they can use their license to save the cost while they are considering to avail SQL services in Azure. So when I say the service, you have to understand that wherever the term service comes, only you have to avail that. In order to avail that service, you have to subscribe that. In order to subscribe, you have to pay that. So while you are paying, and if you have existing license, you can save your cost, right? How much? So near about 40 to 60% cost is saved. For example, if a client is provisioning a Azure SQL database, say for example, with two vCores, right? vCores means logical CPUs. Logical CPUs are known as vCores in Azure, right? So if that is costing, for example, a 17,000 rupees in INR per month, right? Then near about 40 to 60%, sometimes 70% cost you will see, or even 80% cost reduction you will see is there. It depends upon how long you are subscribing that service. For example, you might have seen that whenever the newspaper, you subscribe a newspaper, so they are providing you the option. Would you like to subscribe it for, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or lifelong, something like that. You may see for newspapers or many magazines, right? The longer your subscription will be, the life of the subscription will be longer, less you are offered to pay, right? So you are saving more cost. That's why I'm saying that using the existing license of SQL Server, if a customer plans to go to the cloud and avail SQL Server services, it doesn't matter which kind of service is selecting. I will talk about what are the different kinds of services are offered by Microsoft under Azure Cloud for SQL Server. Then there is a saving of cost around 40 to 80%, right? So it depends upon how long the company or client is planning to subscribe that, right? Okay, guys. So no matter. The important thing is most of the companies are vacating their data centers. What does it mean that? they are planning to retire the data center. Many of the customers have already retired. There are some data compliance. I will not talk about that data compliance too much, but for your information, that some data which is related to government security or any company security, right, or any personal information kind of thing, or financial information, those kind of data, companies will never prefer to migrate to any cloud, in any public cloud. So they prefer to keep those data in their data centers for their privacy reason itself. Apart from that, whatever kind of data is there in the world, they all are willing to migrate their data in the public cloud. When the question comes for SQL Server, obviously the first choice for the customers is Azure. It's not only due to the price. Actually, SQL Server as a service is being offered by different clouds also. For example, when we want to have a comparative study, we will talk about Azure versus AWS, right? So in AWS, you have in a platform as a service term. I will talk about that platform as a service. You have only one flavor of SQL Server there, that is known as RDS, right? RDS on SQL Server. For all databases, they have RDS solution, right? That is a platform as a service solution by AWS. So if a customer is planning to have a SQL Server, right, with 4 logical processors, I can say, right, in AWS, they will have to pay near about, I would say, $2,000. But with 4 vCores, if a customer plans for Azure SQL database, they will have to pay only near about $200 to $225, right? So there is a big, difference in the cost. So for the cost is concerned, right? So obviously, the choice for most of the customers for migrating their SQL Server databases to cloud is Azure, not AWS, right? Not other clouds. It's Azure. Apart from that, there are other reasons too, that SQL Server is, native to Windows operating system, and then it's native to Microsoft too, right? So that's why the performance is always better. Apart from that, Azure offers SQL Server in 3 different, forms of flavors, I would say. One is your Azure SQL database, that is a database level solution. Another is your SQL managed instance, that is SQL Server instance level solution. And another is SQL Server hosted on an Azure VM, right? So when you plan to host Azure SQL Server on a VM, right, then you will have to pay for operating system license, right, plus SQL Server instance license too. Completely licensed, you will have to pay. So that is more costlier. And more important is we talk always about the availability of the service, right? So I'm not going to explain these terms today, but just try to want to put a broad picture that if you have SLA or uptime for a SQL Server on a VM, even you put those VMs in under availability set, you will not have a SLA uptime for those SQL Server for more than 99.995%. The reason behind is that it is being offered as infrastructure as a service. Okay, so when you host SQL Server on a VM, whether it is in your on-premise data center or it is in any cloud, Let's say, for example, if you provision a VM in Azure, then you install SQL Server on top of that, right? So that is also considered as infrastructure as a service model deployment. These are known as cloud deployment model. So you have 3 cloud deployments model. Perhaps I taught something regarding that in previous class also, but not completely, right? So let me come here if I can explain that better. So basically you have 3 cloud deployment model: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, as you can see in the picture here. Infrastructure as a service, we call those who are in India, we usually pronunciate is that IaaS, platform as a service as PaaS, software as a service as SaaS. But when you will work with Microsoft engineers, they pronunciate it as IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? So you should be not surprised with that. That's my objective to let you know, right? These 3 are the cloud deployment model. As I told you that you can provision a VM and then you can host SQL Server on that. That comes under infrastructure as a service, where you can see. Okay, I will explain that later on. Right now, SQL Server is available in platform as a service in 2 forms. One is Azure SQL database and another is SQL managed instance. Azure SQL database is a database level solution. What does it mean? That when you provision Azure SQL database, you can't avail the instance level services or features of SQL Server. For example, you can't have agent there, right? You can't establish database mirroring between 2 Azure SQL databases. You can't establish any kind of replication between 2 Azure SQL databases. But of course, you can establish, the application between your on-prem SQL Server database to Azure SQL database for database mirroring or replication, transactional replication especially. But your Azure SQL database will act only as a subscriber. It can't be a publisher, right? There are many things such as Azure SQL database doesn't support your linked server, right? In many of the, and you will learn about service tiers, it doesn't support, in-memory database or memory optimized tables, right? You can see. But see, if you have a SQL Server and there is only one database on that, and you don't have to use, mail feature of the database, right? Or you don't have to use, for example, linked servers, something like that. Simply, you want to have a connectivity with the application for that database. You will create some logins and users. You will provide rights to those users, right? And you want to maintain security for the database on data at rest level with TD, transparent data encryption, data in transit with always encrypted, right? Then you want to implement dynamic data masking. You want to implement always encrypted, right? Everything is there that is supported by Azure SQL on the, security level. So if there is only one database and it doesn't use database mail feature, linked server, any kind of application job, then it's fine. You can go with Azure SQL database simply. That will be pretty much useful for you, right? You can go with that. And there will be a big saving for that, right? There will be a big saving for that. Why I'm saying that now you are not paying for the VM cost, you are not paying for the operating system cost, you are paying only what you are going to use, right? So pay as you go. you know, whatever you are using, against that you can pay for the SQL Server. So what you are using the compute capability, right? And storage, two things that involves in any database application. Two things you are consuming. Compute capability includes your processor and memory, and to store the data you need some storage. So that is being used, and I guess the compute and storage you are being charged. So whatever you are using, you will have to pay. So there is a big saving against that. When we will see calculator for calculating the price, that will come some in some later stage. So at that time, we will see how we can compare and it present to the customer, right? So while I was working on a project, first we have to done the analysis. The analysis was done, right? And then the recommendation was from our side to go with SQL managed instance for the client. But having discussion with client, right? Finally, we agreed to go with Azure SQL database under, premium service tier, and there was a big cost saving, right, against their solution that was earlier on the earlier hosted on a VM. So that comes in latter stage. See guys, doing the calculation is BTC. It's calculated. You can go there. You can put the number of procedure, which kind of service you want, under which service tier you want, and the cost will be there. How much storage you want, cost will be there. But having a comparative study, right, with different database solution, for example, Azure SQL database under DTU model, then under Recode purchasing model, then under Elastic Pool, or with serverless compute, right? Versus managed instance. This all versus managed instance. This you can do the comparative cost, a cost comparison. You can do only when you will have knowledge of these all things. So I will talk about these all things later on, right? So SQL Server in Azure is available in these two forms: infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Let me show you here. After that, I will explain this term. So in order to go to Azure, you have to have a subscription for that, right? You can use any account for your subscription. For example, I have subscribed Azure using my Gmail account, and I am paying at least 2,465 rupees per month for that. So what you have to do cleverly or smartly here, that once you use any service or once you are done, right, you just delete those all resources. So if I provision Azure SQL database, I put some databases there, I put a database there, right? I tested whatever I have to test, right? Once my test is done, I will certainly delete that. Otherwise, if it is in provisioned state, right? If it is live, I mean, the charge will be there. The charge will be there. Another way is also there, that is you can go with the serverless compute. In that case, you will be charged only when your Azure SQL database is being used. Otherwise, you will be not charged. So let us see what I was talking under different deployment model. It is available here, right? So if I come here, let me go to the home. This is the home page, right? And if I click here, so this is your portal menu, right? And this is your marketplace, basically, where all kinds of services you see here. Your SQL database is one of the service. Even virtual machines are offered as a service. Then app services are there. Azure Cosmos DB is as a service. MongoDB is as a service. Kubernetes services are there. Kubernetes services are there. Artificial intelligence services are there. Machine learning services are there. There are different kinds of such services. There Azure Synapse Analytics is available as a service, right? Apache Spark is available as a service. Azure Data Factory is available as a service. Yes, Rajiv, put your question.
Yeah, sorry. Hi, Neeraj. In this SQL database and Azure SQL, both are same or they are little bit
No,
different?
there is a
Addition.
difference. There is a difference. When I will provision, I will explain it, right? So the
All
SQL
right.
database, when you create basically behind the scenes, right, a logical server is created. Once that logical server is created, you can create Azure SQL database on top of that logical server. So the question is here, I told you that Azure SQL is a database level solution, but behind the scene, it must be hosted on a SQL Server database engine service, right? So that data for that database engine service, you need a Azure logical server, right? And I mean that Azure SQL logical server you need, right? When I will create it, you will have much clarity. So this SQL database you use to create a logical server. On top of that, you can create Azure SQL databases. Even you have not created it separately, at the time of the creation of the Azure SQL database, it will ask you to create a logical server or select the logical server if you have already created, right? Anything else?
Right. No, no, that's fine. That's fine. So basically, when we look at this particular screen of, I mean, we'll call this as a portal, right?
Yes.
Portal of Azure, right?
Mm,
So in this we have got all sort of resource groups and all these things. What I actually learned a week before was like, when you have a resource group available,
mhm.
based on the resource group, you can actually stood up a Azure SQL DB, because internally it will create the virtual machine, and everything it will
No, no.
create,
So
and it will
no.
no.
When you are going to create this Azure SQL database, right? So the question is there of why I need a resource group in advance. While I'm going to create, I can create a resource group. You don't need a resource group to be created in advance, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I can create the resource group on fly. Resource group is nothing but a container. Like you have a folder, you can put many files. Instead of moving those all files individually, or instead of copy those files individually, or instead of deleting those files individually, you can do all the operations at one go on the folder level. That is what the concept of resource group is there, right? If you
So
are
everything.
publishing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So everything will be created on the fly. All these things will be created when we create Azure SQL database. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If that is created in advance, you can select. If not, you are not forced. You can create on fly, right?
On the fly. Yeah. So that's fine. That's fine. Thanks. Thanks.
Also asking for a link. Okay, so I told you that SQL Server is available in 3 flavors for you here. So if you select this Azure SQL, right, let us click on Create button here, and you see here, right, SQL databases. It is available as a single database here. Again, it is available under the Elastic pool also, right? And you can create a database server for this. This is what the logical server will be created for SQL Server. I mean that where you will have a SQL Server instance behind the scenes, but you will not have the visibility that where it has been created, in which reason. Reason will be obviously there because the reason in which you will select this database to be created. So under that reason, it will be created, but you will be not have the clarity that under which zone, under which ability set it has been created. You will not have the clarity on that. So I will talk about these all terms when we will enter into the class with technical discussions more. We will have these all basics about the ability zone, ability set, ability zone versus ability set. These all things we will talk. So basically, you should think only it's single database, right? You should not consider it as here that it has three variations. These are not basically the variations of single database, right? These are, the features that you can use with single database. You can have multiple single databases combined in an elastic pool where you will assign a fixed kind of, compute capability, which means that compute capability, when I say that is basically considered in terms of vCore and RAM along along with the storage. Basically we have much emphasis on vCore here. So that will be reassigned to that elastic pool, and if in that elastic pool, if you configure 5, 6, 10 databases, right? So that those all databases will use that compute capability as per their uses. So there are scenarios in which you should use elastic pool. We will talk about that. There is a scenario in which you should use Azure SQL database with serverless compute. So that is another concept. But I was talking about that in which flavor it is. So one is single database, another is single instance. This is your SQL managed instance, basically, right? And another is SQL server hosted on a virtual machine. So this is available under infrastructure as a service, and these two are available under platform as a service. Let us come back and learn about.
Sorry, Neeraj, a quick question here.
Mhm.
So when we talk about these three of them, so in this SQL managed instances, would that be classified as a PaaS service
Yes,
only?
it's a platform as a service, right?
Okay. So where is the solution of SaaS? Like, when we can actually define.
SQL Server is not available under software as a service. Although many
Oh,
people say that it is available under software as a service, but it's not like that, right?
okay.
So
So it's just a pass for SQL Server,
yes,
whether we
yes,
use SQL Server, Azure SQL DB, or a SQL managed instance. So they are
yes,
all
yes.
termed as pass. Okay.
Yes, these are available under platform as a service. So there are many new guys here who do not understand this terminology. So let us explain it somewhat fastly, and then we will go ahead to learn more things, right?
Okay. Thanks.
So as you can see that we have three cloud deployment models: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. These three you can understand if you can understand how your database is, especially and applications are especially hosted in your data centers. On-site means data center solution, you can see, right? So in a data center, you know that a data center first consists of a campus. There is a building, right? The building is connected with the electricity. It is well maintained with the cool, so good quality of air conditioned environment is there. Then there are devices, computing devices, such as there is a rack of CPU, right? Then there is a rack of storage. You have networking devices, right? Such as L3 level switches, L2 level switches, routers, firewalls, right? These all things are there, right? So then the data center is equipped with these all devices where you can then provision virtual machines, right? Using any virtualization software such as Hyper-V or VMware. For that, company has to pay the license, right? Then you need operating system in order to provision the VM. That can be your Windows operating system, that can be your Linux, Unix or Mac operating system, right? Then you need middleware. You may need internet information server as the wave server for the middleware. You may have others on the Unix or Linux operating system such as Tomcat, Apache, right? You need the runtime environment for the application. Then you need the database management software. It may be SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, Postgres, whatever it is there, MySQL, right? So for, and finally the application is everywhere, right? So for application, companies are developing their application by their own team or any third-party vendor is there. So that also includes the cost. What we observe here, that company needs a good amount to pay, right, in order to have their own data center. That comes under capital expenditures. A lot of capital expenditure you can see with database, with data center solution. Now, when everything is in place in order to keep the application running behind the scenes, database should be running and all the times, right? Then the application web server should running all the time, right? There must be good network connectivity all the times between your applications and your database and the VMs, right? So these all things need to be working. For that, company needs good stops for that, right? They have to pay for network administrators, storage administrators, hypervisor or VMware administrators, right? Web server administrators, right? Then database administrators, they have to pay. So these all things come under your operational cost. Apart from that, the operating system that is on the VM has to be patched, right, against its bugs and security. So patching is one of the requirement for the servers. Same way, your database needs to be patched also and updated or upgraded also, right? So this again includes some cost with operational cost, right? That is known as OPEX. So a lot of CAPEX and OPEX is there. When you move to the cloud, right, and you want to provision a VM for that, now company does not needs its own data center, so they don't have to invest in or hire a building on the lease. For that, they don't have to pay. So building cost is not there, no cost of networking devices there, no cost of storage there, no cost of CPU racks, no cost of storage racks, no cost of memory, right? No cost of virtualized software such as VMware or hypervisor, right? Now, without having your company's capital spent in these all items, right? If you can provision a VM there, right? But for that, you will have to pay for the license cost of the operating system, license cost of the middleware software, license cost of the database management system software, and of course, whatever the cost of application will be there, that you will have to pay. Right, so less CapEx, but there's still you have some not 100% relaxation from capital expenditure, but you can see here, you will have near about 40 to 50% reduction in capex if any company goes to cloud in infrastructure as a service model for deploying their applications and database. Now, in the platform as a service, cloud deployment model, if any company decides to migrate or provision, their databases and migrate their application servers and applications to the cloud, then they don't have to invest anything in their capital expenditure. No expenditure in the building, right? No expenditure in the networking devices, no expenditure in the storage, no expenditure in the CPU racks, memory, no expenditure in the virtualized software, no expenditure in the operating system, right? Yeah, they don't have to spend in these all items, right? Only where they have to pay whatever the database service, right? Database management service or database service the company will consume. Against that, they will have to pay, right? And for the applications, whatever, for application also, they have to pay, because in order to, host the application now in cloud, you have two ways. Either you can host your application on a VM For that, you need a web server, right? Or you can use web app as a service, right? So when you will use the web app as a service, in that case also, you don't have, or your company don't have to pay for the VM, operating system, license. So the SQL Server, which is available as a service in cloud, in platform as a service cloud deployment model, we have is Azure SQL and SQL managed instance, right? When SQL Server is hosted on a is hosted on a VM in cloud, then it comes under infrastructure as a service model. So you can say there almost capex is gone, vanished here. No capital expenditure is required. Only what the service of the database and even the service of the application, what you are consuming or your company is consuming, they are paying for that, right? There is another cloud deployment model that is software as a service, where you even don't have to think about your database and your applications too. Outlook is the best example. Gmail is the best example of software as a service, right? Where you don't need even your applications to be developed by any vendor or any application team, where that data of the where data resides for the mail, you don't have to worry about. Simply you are consuming, and we have been consuming Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo Mail since very beginning. That is software as a service model, right? Web calculators are also or web services. Some web services are there. Those are the best example of software as a service, right? So no capex, almost, and no opex is also there in software as a service. It's very simple, like that. Electric comes to your house, right? Where the power is generated, where the plant is there for power generation, you don't have to worry about how the electricity is coming to your house. You don't have to worry about poles and watts it is coming. You don't have to worry about transformers it is transmitting. All right, you don't have to worry about. Simply you are subscribing to a service provider of electric to a electric service provider. You are subscribing and you are consuming that service. Whatever you are consuming, you are paying for that every month. So same thing is applicable on software as a service, right? Even we are not paying free services are being offered by Gmail, Yahoo Mail, and etc. Even without. So that is the best example of software as a service. Any question here, guys, in the cloud deployment model?
Yeah, Neeraj, yeah, quick question here. We understand, like, now you've given us a differentiation between on-site and infrastructure as service, PaaS and SaaS. But now, when we talk about specifically for our database, right?
Mhm,
Because we
mhm,
are learning database here.
mhm.
So, the SaaS, how does SaaS actually link to our database? As we understand from our previous examples, that PaaS will only offer us SQL managed instance as well as Azure SQL DB on it.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm,
But for SaaS,
mm,
if we put on a good examples, so I know you explained about Outlook and something like Gmail, like we can make use that as a service. But
mhm.
our database stands, we cannot use in SaaS, right? So
Yes.
what type of applications are available in SaaS apart from what you explained, so that
Hmm.
if we can directly use and consume it?
Okay, so you have web app there, right? Then you have one more thing is there, that is mm, Azure Data Factory is there, right? You can consume that. Then you have best example is there, Snowflake, right?
Right.
That is your data warehousing solution, right? That is the best example. That is available as a
Right.
web service, right? You can consume that. Okay.
Okay.
But these two
So-
are
so someone-
certainly
Yeah.
not comes
So-
completely under SaaS.
Yeah. So someone who wants to actually develop the warehouse solution, they can actually go into that particular SaaS, I mean Snowflake, and then try to consume the
Yeah,
service and
right,
be on it.
That's
Okay.
a very good storage. So, I mean that oh,
Services. Yeah.
data warehousing solution, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have Azure Synapse Analytics also here, but it's not completely available as a SaaS. It's available as a PaaS service. But the Snowflake is available as a software as a service.
Right. Okay.
Any other question, guys? Okay, then you have understanding of these, deployment models now. So why we should learn about Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance? That should be the question that must come in your mind, right? Guys, I have been interviewing candidates now since last 1 year especially, and now the JD for SQL DB has completely changed. In job description, this Azure SQL and SQL managed instance has, along with the Azure cloud understanding, is a must. If you don't know this, right, you will have lesser opportunity, right, as a SQL DB, I would say, because most of the companies are working for the client where the project for migration of SQL Server databases are there, especially from on-prem to Azure. Most of the migrations you will see for SQL Server databases are targeted for Azure, either for single database or for SQL managed instance. I can say that more than 80% migrations happen on Azure only for single database and SQL managed instance, right? Only companies who have contract who have contract and agreement with other clouds that they will migrate their all kinds of databases, all kinds of their application servers and all kinds of VMs for whatever service is there to the particular cloud. Only in that case, companies are going with other clouds. They are going either with AWS or Google Clouds, two are the main competitor of Azure nowadays. So for Azure SQL database is concerned, right? I would say that although you can have a comparative study versus Azure versus AWS, and you will see still the graph is higher for AWS. But if you compare the use or migration of SQL Server, right, from on-prem to cloud, you will see for 80% now customers are going with Azure. Only 20% customers choice, and even that is not choice under their contract, that if they are migrating their or complete, if they're vacating their data center, right, so they will go only to the AWS cloud. They will not opt any other cloud. Then only in that case they are going with they're migrating their SQL Server to other clouds. That is the case. So there is a big demand in the DBA world for those who have especially now well equipped themselves with the knowledge of migration especially, right? So while you are learning, you must have you must learn a good knowledge of migration especially, right? After that, performance issues will come, right? So that is that depends upon your experience and the knowledge of performance tuning. So whatever the art of performance tuning you learn under SQL Server and performance tuning under my guidance, right? That will certainly help you in resolving the issues even for Azure SQL databases. But apart from that, there are other things that you will have to understand also. In the real world scenario, what happens? I am telling you a very real example. You work as a SQL database as the part of migration team or operation team, right? But there is a team called pre-sales, right? And pre-sales team work closely with some kind of what we can say practice team, right? Where the assessment of the database is done before the migration, and after the assessment, the recommendation is done that if assessment has been done for, say, for example, 200 SQL Server instances. So the database architect who has performed the assessment with the with the consent of pre-sales team decide to even make false promise to the customer. You will be surprised, Say, for example, if there is a SQL Server hosted on a VM on customer data center, there is only one database on that, right? And it is operating with four logical procedures, right? So the analysis is done against the assessment, and now they are, recommending to migrate that database to Azure SQL database only, say, for example, with 20 GPUs, right? For your information, this is a question that is asked in interview. How many DTU, database transaction unit system stands for? How many DTUs are equivalent to, one vCore in development environment, right?
100.
So that is 100, right? Who is this?
Amit, sir, Amit.
Good.
In first batch, in first class, you told us.
Yes, good. That was not the class. I simply talked, if you remember, right? So how many GTUs are equivalent to one vCore in production environment? The answer is 125. Now you can see that when SQL Server was, database was running with 4 vCores, sorry, not 4 vCores, four cores or 4 logical processors in the customer data center. Now here, the assessment team is saying that your database will work fine only with 20 DTUs, means 1/5 power of processor, a single processor. So where the client was paying for the license for 4 logical processors, now he is going to pay license even for less than 1 processor, right? There is a big saving of the cost here. It seems very good to the client. Oh, this much of cost I'm saying. Now, what is happening on the ground? Based on this assessment, the migration team has provisioned the Azure SQL database with 20 DTUs now. And when the application starts to work, application user starts to connect with the database, the performance of the application starts to integrate. Now, the application team is complaining to the migration team, my performance is not good, right? So in that case, whatever you try to do, that will not work. I am telling you on my experience. You try to, try to rebuild the index, try to update the statistics, try to remove fragmentation, try to find out the costliest queries, try to tune them, right? Nothing will work because the computing capability is too low in comparison to the earlier configuration. That is the problem. So now the only way is here, you have to upscale. You have to upscale your Azure SQL database. In order to upscale, you have to increase the number of DTUs. And these terms are coming under SKUs, right? So for basically you have to, I'm just giving you a broad picture. I'm not teaching you any topic today. Try to understand those all things. So you are going to subscribe Azure SQL database. You are going to subscribe Azure, and now you have subscribed, you are going to purchase Azure SQL database from the Microsoft. So they are providing you two purchasing models for Azure SQL database, right? One purchasing model is DTU. DTU stands for Database Transaction Unit. It's a computing unit, you can say, right? So computing unit always consists of your logical processor plus memory, right? What I was talking, I just forgot that.
Yeah, one SKU.
So I was talking about the SKUs, right? So now you have to increase the what I can say, the SKUs, right? So from that is also known as sizing units, right? So from sizing units, there is sizing units called S0, S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6 up to S10. You can say, you can see, right? So you will have to increase the size, and the beauty is that you can do that on fly. You don't need the downtime for any Azure SQL database, right? You don't need to have any downtime. You can do that on fly. So only way is to increase the size by increasing the number of TTUs, right? So you increase it, and then you can test the performance. If the customer is satisfied with the performance by comparing the on-premise performance versus Azure environment, it's fine. So that happens, in reality, I'm telling you. But as a DBA, you have to provide the proof, right? That this is a must. You have to do that. Although that was suggested by the assessment team, I'm not denying that. Maybe they have suggested or recommended on the basis of some reason, but this is what is my recommendation, and you can see that this is the only way we can improve the performance. But before doing so, you must do your order, analysis against the index fragmentation, updation of statistics, whether the statistics is a state or not. These all things you must take care of. And also you should find your costliest query, you should find your missing indexes. These things you must do for first, right? And after that, if this is not work, you have to ultimately, scale up your Azure SQL database. So migration is a major task. For that, you will be hired as Azure SQL lead. If you know Azure SQL, certainly you will have, more than 50 to 60% opportunity than what you have as a SQL lead. I'm not, saying that if you don't know Azure SQL or database administration, you will not get a job in the market. You will be not able to change your job in the market. But yes, opportunity will be lesser. And if you learn this stuff, certainly you will have more opportunity, better hike, right? There is no doubt in that. This is what is happening nowadays. So you must upgrade, right, to yourself with the skills of Azure SQL database, right? Another thing is, the server level load for a login for Azure SQL database is completely different. I will take that in the class, not today. That is completely different. There are different 7, 8 kinds of roles have been, new roles have been assigned, right? And that you have to know. Earlier server level login roles, whatever login roles you have, that don't work. For example, sysadmin, server admin, or whatever you have, that doesn't work. Just a minute, guys. There is a call. Guys, I will be back in 3 to 4 minutes. It's 9:09. We will start at 9:30. Okay, I will be back in 3 to 4 minutes. So guys, those who have joined late, for them, this is the information that we already have, started this batch, right? Those who wish to join this batch, they can join, right? This is an existing batch. Many of the participants that you see here already part of this, right? We have already started here. Next class will be on Saturday. This is the weekend batch, and classes will be there from 8:30 p.m. to 10:30 or 11, something like that. The duration, we will try to cover that in 4 to 6 weekends, but whatever time it will take, it won't matter. This batch is going for a long time, right? So timing and duration is not a problem. We can extend. The course fees 12K in INR. Those who are interested, who are not enrolled in this batch, right? They should contact me on my WhatsApp number. Rather than pinging me here, it's 8750560006. I am in India, so you can prefix it with Neumann. You can contact me, provide my ATM, GPay and account details which you can deposit the fee. You can start learning SQL from coming Saturday. Okay, guys. So, and one more request is here. You all ping your email ID here in this chat so that I can send you the syllabus. You will have the syllabus in your hand. You can go through. I will show you the syllabus in some time. So here this is. This is the not about this is the database pricing. SQL list. So I will configure, and I will configure, I will show you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, where should I go now? Okay, so just a little bit more theory, then we will enter into practical parts, and we will see that how to provision Azure SQL database, that is from beginning, and there I will show you the SKUs under which you will provision that. I will talk about the purchasing model there also, and in different purchasing model we have different service tiers. Service tiers are available or means for you as a user, right, or as a consumer or subscriber. under different service tiers. So consideration of service tier depends upon the response time of the application, right? So how less latency or how much how less response time you not less response time, I would say max response time, right? I would say max response time, how you can get max response time. Depending upon that, you have to decide the service tier, right? So I will show you these all things. So the first things that should come in your mind is about the cloud, right? So a cloud is nothing here, right? But a collection of data centers spread over all the geographical regions, right? Throughout the world, I would say. So any cloud is a collection of data center, right? Distributed or expanded over different geographical regions all over the world, right? There, the term comes region, right? So every cloud has its own region. And there are many reasons, right? How many reasons are there currently for Azure? You can search that on Google. Perhaps right now 56 regions are there, right? So definitely in every region we have data centers and all are connected with. So all regions are not connected with each other actually. Some regions are paired regions. I will also talk about that, right? So different geographical locations are the regions. This is a picture of the regions that this is the world map, and the dot shows that on what geographical areas we have Azure regions, right? Every region consists of some ability zones, right? And in every ability zones, we may have either one data center or 2 to 3 data centers, right? And they are interconnected with each other. So that is for the ability. That is for the high availability of your resources or the service that you will subscribe. So, say for example, when you provision Azure SQL database, so when you will learn about the architecture of Azure SQL database, you will see that how the high availability is maintained. So basically, high availability for Azure SQL database and SQL managed instances are inbuilt. You don't have to do anything for that. That is the first advantage. You get, SQL Server as a service there, right? In platform as a service. You don't have to think about the high availability. You don't have to worry about the backup of your databases, right? That is maintained by Azure itself. 7 days backup is by default maintained. You can have the backups up to 35 days, and in the cold storage, you can even maintain long retention backups up to 10 years or 20 years. You can check in Google, 10 or 20 years perhaps, right? You don't have to think about backups. You don't have to think about the patching. You don't have to think about the latest database engine service. So Microsoft Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance are always provisioned under latest SQL Server database engine. Microsoft uses a term stable and latest. So whatever is a stable and latest, I think right now SQL Server 2019 is a stable and latest operating system that is considered by Microsoft, right? So that is used behind the scenes whenever you provision Azure SQL database or SQL managed instance. This is also a question you may came across while you are talking with your clients, right? What will be the version of my Azure SQL database? Or what will be the version of my SQL managed instance? Because customer may have a hesitation in migration, although you have provided them a compatibility report by doing the analysis through DMA tool. DMA, Data Migration Assistant, is a tool, guys, that is basically used for assessment of your on-premise SQL Server database for migrating either to Azure SQL database or SQL managed instance database or Azure SQL hosted on a V, right? So before the migration of the database, assessment must be done, because assessment gives you the picture that whether the databases you are planning to migrate, say for example, to Azure SQL database is compatible to Azure SQL database or not. Whether you are, but if you are planning to migrate your databases against SQL managed instance, there is no doubt you will be able to migrate without any problem, because whatever the features you have on server level and database level, app level for your on-premise SQL Server, almost 99 point features are available in SQL managed instance, so you don't have to worry about it. But while your target database is Azure SQL database, you have to be pretty much cautious while you are performing the analysis. So DMA basically is a tool that is available for free from the Microsoft. You can download from Microsoft site, which is used basically for assessment of the on-premise databases in order to migrate them to Azure, either on Azure SQL database or on SQL managed instance, or even on SQL Server hosted on Azure on a Azure VM. Many of the people use DMA also for migrating the database. This is good for, I would say, small databases. If you have database of 10, 20 CV, you can do that. But the migration through DMA is always offline, right? Before you start migration using DMA, you have to put your source database into read-only state, and then when you should start the migration, right? So it is free. DMA is a tool that is freely downloadable from Microsoft site, and using that you can do the assessment, you can do the migration as well. Next is your DMS, data migration service, right? So using the database migration service, you can migrate your database in two fashions, either in offline fashion or online fashion, right? When you say offline fashion, means that you need the downtime for that. You have to put your database again, you need only a state there on the source, and then you have to start the migration. When I say online migration, so for online migration, you can start your database migration anytime before your cutover, right? Or before the date of the migration, you can start the migration using DMS, and your transactions will keep on replicating to the target database. It may be your Azure SQL or SQL managed instance, or Azure SQL database hosted on the VM. That can be your target. And whenever the migration is done, what you can do, you can put your database in the offline state, on the source server, or even you can set down the SQL services there. That's it. Your database migration is done using DMS. So for DMS, since it's a service, right, Microsoft charges for that, and you will be heavily charged against that if you provision a DMS. Always any service that you provision is against some computing capability, and computing capability, as I told you, that comes with processors and memory. So for that you will be charged. The best practice of using DMS, if you are practicing through DMS, is to use that. Once the migration is done, you just stop it, right? The best practice for Azure SQL, or you can even destroy that. If you are using it for own learning purpose, you should destroy that. You should delete that. If you are using Azure SQL database for your learning purpose, you learn about that, whatever is targeted, whatever tasks are targeted to be accomplished, do that. And after you are done, you delete that. That is the best practice in order to save the cost. Otherwise, as a student or as a learner, or even as an employee, as a service employee, you will have to pay a lot. So you don't want to pay as an employee. Basically, we are not a business owner. Why to pay much money, right? You must delete that. So I was talking about reasons, right? There are different reasons. Yes, Rajiv, go ahead. Your questions.
Yeah. So yeah, as you mentioned about the migration surveys, the question for you is like, is there a way apart from this DMS and DMA, we can use like, ship the backup to the cloud and then restore it using
Yeah,
our
there are different.
traditional way?
I have not talked about migration methods, right? I just
Okay.
came back to this topic. But let us talk about the migration method. Good question. So there, you must be asked these questions that what are the different migration approaches or methods you have using that you can migrate your
Yeah.
database to Azure SQL database, right? So this is a
Right.
question that is asked in interview, and this shows your knowledge that how much you have done. So the first that I talked about is DMA, but at the same time,
Yeah.
you should say as your answer that we should not use DMA for migrating the log databases. Rather, we should prefer to use DMS. You have transactional replication available there. You can establish a transaction replication between your on-premise database to Azure SQL database. And when the Azure SQL database will be your subscribing, I will show you in the next class, right? You all join, I will show you that how to do that. Then another method that you have is you can take the backpack copy of your database of the on-premise SQL server, and you can restore that on the Azure SQL database, right? Another method is that you can deploy your schema through DMA, and you can use the export and import methods, to migrate the data to the Azure SQL database from your on-premise, right? You can also establish database mirroring, right, from your on-prem database to your SQL database. But that is not recommended. Transactional replication when you can use, but transactional replication has a limitation. You must all be knowing that every table that is participating in your migration must have a prime key. So most of the times it does not work in real life. But in theory, Microsoft says that yes, you can do, and yes, we can do that, right? So these are the different migration approaches you have for Azure SQL database. For your clarity, Azure SQL database does not support native backup and restore command, right? If you check the backup of your on-premise database using backup command, and you try to restore that from any blob URL, so what do we do? You will take the backup of the database, you will put anywhere in any storage, and the backup you should place in Azure should be placed under any blob container, right? So that is the kind of storage you have, and you will have to generate the
that is it.
SAS key. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be incompatible always. Yeah. We cannot
Yes.
actually use the
Yeah.
storage
Right.
of Azure and copy it there. So because we don't have
Yes.
access to.
No.
Okay.
You can
Then
copy that. Even you have access, you can copy that on the
right.
blob URL. But native backup and restore is not supported for Azure SQL database. It is supported for SQL managed instance, right?
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for manage instance, it is possible. But
Whatever
for
methods,
normal,
whatever methods Azure SQL database supports for that I discussed for migrating the database, that is all supported by SQL managed instance. Additionally, it supports native backup and restore approach also, right? Got it?
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Neeraj.
So the next question immediately you will be asked that Did you ever migrate the database on SQL managed instance using backup and restore command? If your answer is yes, immediately you will be asked, what are the steps you have to take? The steps are, you can note it down, is to copy the database, backup from on-premise SQL Server to a blob, a storage container, or to a storage account under which you have a blob storage container. Right? Container means a folder. So under the blob storage, you have to copy that backup. After that, you will have to generate a SAS key for that backup file. Then using that SAS key, you will have to create a credential in the SQL managed instance. And using that credential, you can restore the database from the blob URL. That is the answer. Right?
It means just to access that blob through instance manage, we had to create one login.
Yes, that is correct.
If we in on premises we using SQL Server 2012 and SQL managed instance is 2019. So is there any impact for that?
Sorry, say again. I was just saying.
If on premises we have SQL Server 2012 version, and in SQL Azure SQL managed instance we have SQL Server 2019. So is there any other activity we have to do, or just we have to restore then?
Before that, I told you first you have to perform the assessment using DL, right?
Okay.
You have to see that whether your database is compatible to migrate to SQL managed instance or not. Even Microsoft claims that yes, 99% compatibility is there between your on-premise SQL Server and SQL managed instance. But the best practice is you do the assessment first, have your assessment report in hand where it says everything is green, then go ahead. Right? I received only one email ID, guys. So again, I am reiterating my statement. Those who are eager to learn, please, or those who are eager to enroll in this batch, right? Please ping your email ID. I will send you the syllabus, right? And today's recording also. Many more advantages you will get. You will ping your email ID. You will get something definitely on frequent basis, at least in a month. So it's all on you. If you wish, you can ping. Otherwise, it's fine. Okay, so what would you ping here? Okay, we copy that later on. So we have just started this batch, right? This is an existing batch. We have just started. Today is the first class. You are already attending. If you wish, you can contact me on this WhatsApp number. I already pinned here. That is here. 8750560006. You can ping me on this WhatsApp number to discuss this more. So that is all about the migration approaches, Razi. It's fine.
Yes, sir.
Rajiv, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I think that I am just, wrapping up this discussion here for reasons and ability zones. After that, we'll enter into migration. So regions are basically geographical areas, right? You can see here. These are the different regions you have. East US region, most of the times we provision our resources here, because when you have a free account or when you have a just a minute. Whatever talking. Yes, so when you have a free account or when you have even a developer account, against that you are going to pay 25, near about 2,500 per month, right? All services are not available in that. right? Even with developer account, I guess that you will be not able to provision SQL managed instance, and all services will be not available for you under all geographical regions, right? So you will have some limited regions under that you can provision. So regions are just geographical areas in which Microsoft have data centers. In every region, you have ability zones. In every ability zones, you have 1 to 3 data centers. In some ability zones, in some regions, you have only one data center. In some ability zones, in some ability zones, you have 2 to 3 data centers. The distance between 2 to 3 data centers are not more than 5 to 25 kilometers due to reducing the network latency to maintain the high availability, right, guys? So high availability is always maintained within the zones, and disaster recovery solutions are always provided within the regions. That is, you have to understand, right? More we will talk on this. I think pairing, etc. we will talk later on. The other things, update domain and pod domain applies on DM. That we will talk later on. So just have a glimpse of the syllabus somewhat quickly. This is just introduction, the models that we have discussed, regions, zones, everything set. VNet and subnets will plays into a very important role. We will talk about that, because every resource that you will provision has to be provisioned under a subnet, and that subnet will be under a VNet, right? So VNet is nothing but a range of CIDR block of IP addresses, or simply say that a range of IP addresses, right? And then subnet is the a small sets of IP addresses that you will form within a VNet. You will create within a VNet. This is important to know how Azure SQL database works. That is about the architecture and how the data or request flows within the SQL database that we will talk. Then we are going to provision Azure SQL database today. You will see how to connect and query the SQL database from portal itself, then from SQL managed instance. We will talk about that, right? Then obviously when you provision, how to delete the resource you must learn, otherwise you will be charged a lot. We will enter into SQL managed instance. What is this? What are the different purchasing model for Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance that we will talk? What are the service tiers under that we will talk? Those are the things that we will talk there. How to migrate, right? So finding the migration benefits, finding the migration blockers you'll find using DMA that we will talk. Selecting the migration tool, by tool DMA is there, DMS is there that we have talked, right? Transaction replication is there. Those are all things, backpack, right, etc. We will talk about that, import, export. Then these are the things there, features we will talk of, managed instance and SQL managing Azure SQL database, right? Purchasing models, this is very important for you to understand for Azure SQL databases and SQL managed instance, GTU and VPO. Hardware generations you have to understand. Under what hardware generation you are going to provision your SQL managed instance of Azure SQL database, that you have to understand. What is Azure hybrid benefit? I just talked about licensing at the very beginning phase. That comes under Azure hybrid benefit, where you can use your existing SQL Server licenses, right, when you are provisioning your Azure SQL database or SQL managed instance in order to save the cost, right? Different service tiers we will talk, right, where the hyperscale service tier is entirely operate differently than your general standard and business critical service tiers, right? So under DTU purchasing model, what service tiers are available? Under vCore, what service tiers are available? Right, it's all about controlling the price and performance. Service tier applies for two terminologies, right, to meet the performance and to save the cost or meet the cost. Azure SQL database is available in the hyperscale service tier. Till the date, SQL managed instance is not available under hyperscale service tier. This is basically used for big databases when you have to host a very large database in Azure of 50 TB, 100 TB, even of 200 terabytes, right? You can avail the Azure SQL database under hyperscale service tier. For that, it's very good performance. You will be surprised to know, guys, that even a database size of 100 TB can be backed up within 20 minutes in Azure under hyperscale service. So this is very costly, but this is very big performance. You will see that how we can do that. Licensing, flexibility, these DTO calculator, these are the things. So these things we will talk more or less. Backup, how backup is done in Azure SQL database, and how you can check manually if you miss that. We will talk using backpack and backpack, right? So this is about backup. Then you have the recovery of the restore your database with point in time recovery, right? How to restore from long-term storage, how to restore a deleted database, how to restore database from view list, from any other reason that is view restore database, right? These are the things that we talk. Then how to secure your database, that is very important part. We talk about that. On the then your database security starts from the server level firewall, followed by the database level firewall in Azure. Then it comes under authentication, SQL authentication and Azure Active Directory authentication. It supports basically two kinds of authentication. Under the Azure Active Directory authentication, again, you have different authentication methods with password, with multi-factor authentication, with integrated security. It supports these three. Then definitely some server level roles are there, which is completely new for Azure SQL database, but server level roles for a SQL managed instance is same to your on-premise. Database level roles are same for Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance, right? We will talk about those all things, right? You will see the new roles, database creators, login manager, like what you have other roles, server level administrator roles, that administrator users, right? We will talk about flow level security, dynamic data masking, and advanced data security under always encrypted. These all things we will talk about. Then how to scale up your database, right? So you can scale up your database with your service tiers, with SKUs. I mean that with slicing, with vertical partitioning, right? With sharding, right? These all things we will talk. Elasticity, the beauty of a new SQL database. You will have to first understand what are elastic tools going to use that, then how to use that. We'll talk about that. Your SQL database does not support your SQL Server agent because it does not have MSDB. Model and MSDB databases are not part of your SQL database, right? You have master and GenDB, but model and MSDB is not there. Hence, MSDB is not there, so SQL agent is not there in Azure SQL database, right? Then if you have to create a job, how you can create for that? You can create the elastic job. We'll talk about that. How the high availability and disaster recovery is done or accomplished in Azure SQL database and SQL managed instance. We'll talk about that. High availability is inbuilt, but for disaster recovery, you have different solutions there. Your application in two forms are available as standard and active. Then we have auto failover group. We will talk about this all, right? And this is all about the monitoring, where you have some wonderful things available. You have your monitor there. You have alerts and matrices there. Then you have Azure inside there. That is the advanced form of your what is that query? Non-premise. What that tool that is in introduced in SQL Server, query store. So performance insight, query performance insight is an advanced form of what I told, query store, right? With some artificial intelligence bind with that. So then how to tune your Azure SQL database, how to enable automatic tuning, right? On what service tiers in-memory database is supported or memory optimized database is supported. That's done. So this is what we are going to learn for Azure SQL database. And this will give you the complete knowledge of Azure SQL database along with migration. We will have much emphasis on migration, understanding the different server level log and database level roles, and then configuring high availability and the understanding high availability, configuring disaster recovery, then recovering the database from different approaches, right? We have much emphasis on that. Any question regarding the syllabus you have?
Neeraj, in regards to one of the topic called as disaster recovery, yeah. So exactly, are you going to actually put a scenario where we are going to recover the database into a different region?
Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
We can do in different ways. We will try to delete the database. We will try to corrupt the database, right? And then we will see that how we can recover the data.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was just going through in my previous job, like, I was going through this documentation on the DR side, which was very critical for us. So now when we were learning through, so the only thing which we have not done so far is like, doing the DR exercise on it itself, but we were trying to plan that out still there. So my question, that's the reason I'm asking here is like,
One thing
we can do it on the same region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, we can do it on the same region. We can restore, recover. But if we are going to move this to different region from the automated backups, then definitely we can take care of this scenario in our exercise, right? When you teach us.
So one thing should be clear. I have a senior student here. Whatever problems they are facing in their environment, we discuss those all things here and we provide the solution. Guys, those who are part of the industry, say yes or no in support of my statement. If you all are there, say yes or no, whatever I said.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
21 years.
Sorry, actually the connection was breaking. Yeah. Can
Yeah.
you repeat that again?
No,
Neeraj?
I told you that whatever problem you have in your environment or whatever you want to achieve, you are facing the problem, you can discuss in the class, right? You will discuss those all things, we will play the scenario, and even if you need personal help, I will be happy to help. So that is what
All right.
I told all my guys that if they are getting such kind of support from me, say yes or no. So 2 or 3, and those who are active here, they say yes. Is that true, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Neeraj. Cheers.
Yes.
Okay, guys. So this is all about the syllabus. I will send syllabus to all of you. I will send it. We can start recording. Yes. What's going on? The next thing is now, maybe Rasi, you already have done or someone has done, but many of the participants are new to Azure SQL database, right? So I will show them how to provision the Azure SQL database and then how to migrate a database using DMA or backpack or anything like that, right? You will see. So different migration methods we will talk. Meanwhile, I am provisioning. I will tell you the basic things first. Later we will talk about the advanced things. So I have to provision Azure SQL database, guys, for those who are new to Azure, the first thing, whatever you are looking for, it is not guaranteed that it will come here in this list, right? Because in this list, only those services or objects will appear here that you have used recently, right? So this is the search box here in the marketplace. We have to search for that. So put in your few words here, Azure SQL, right? This is coming as the first choice. Select it. Whenever you want to provision any service, you have to create that. So click on create button. These are the different flavor of SQL Server that you have available in Azure. I already talked. We are interested in provisioning single database, so that is already selected. Even you can select from here. Click on create. First thing, what is okay? I have subscribed Azure under pay as you go model. So whatever I will use, I will pay for that. Now, Rajiv, I don't have a resource group created here, or perhaps yes, it is already there. So I can select it even, or even I can create a new resource group under which I'm going to provision this Azure SQL database, right? So your statement was correct that behind the scenes, all the networking endpoints, right? And then behind the scenes, actually, VMs are already running for your Azure SQL database. No VM is going to be provisioned. It is most of the times created on a running VM as the logical server. So you have to create a resource group. I already have. It's very simple. Create on a new, and then you can type in your resource group name. You can click on OK. Resource group will be created within a few seconds. This is my resource group. This is my database name, right? So, for example, I'm putting my database name. Let us plan my database as what I have here on the source. Say, for example, this is a big database, right? Earlier we tried with test DB. Today I'm going to try with somewhat a larger database, and definitely we will face some issue, right? So I have not done the analysis, but I know what kind of issues you will face. I will show you what kind of issue you will face. So this is the name of my database. The database name should be similar to your source database name. Then now, I don't have any logical server created for this SQL database that I'm going to create. Your SQL database is always created on its logical SQL server, where behind the scenes, there will be a VM. On the VM, right, a instance of SQL server will be a spin up. And on the top of that, this database will be created, but that will be not known to you, right? On which server it has been created, in which availability zone or in which data center it has been created, that will be not known to you. So create a server here first. First enter the server name while you are going to create it. So your server name should be logical. I'm planning to have multiple single databases created under this server. So I am giving this name as SQL Server for Azure SQL DB. This is my name. This name should be unique, right? If it does not exist, then it will be accepted. And I'm going to create it under HTTPS. These are the different reasons that you have. For example, if I create here, Asia Pacific Southeast Asia, or let us try it. Reason something related to India. Do we see here? Or let us try with Asia Pacific industry. right? You see, your subscription does not have access to create a service in this selected reason, right? So even with pay as you go subscription, although I am paying 2,500 rupees to 2,465 rupees perhaps per month, I don't have facility to provision my resources or provision my services in all regions, right? So let us go with STUS2, it should work. This is my region here, right? It is accepted. I don't have Azure Active Directory configured, right? So I will go with SQL authentication only this time. And let us put admin login name here. I'm putting my title name, that's fine. And then put your password. You type your password. So this is all that was mandatory in order to create a database logical server. That will be created. It got created now, right? I'm not using Elastic Pool. We have not yet discussed. Let us leave that. It will be used in development environment, not in production, right? And here you see that compute and storage, right? This is the computing capability that is known as here. So now I am going to configure my database for its computing capability. I'm purchasing the database now with the computing capability. So under what tiers it is available, under what purchasing models it is available. See here, the first model is V code purchasing model. Second model is DTU based purchasing model, right? Under V code purchasing model, we have 3 service tiers: general purpose, hyperscale, and business critical. It means that my Azure SQL database is available under hyperscale service tier 2, right? Then under DTU best purchasing model, I have 3 service tiers: basic, standard, and premium, right? The basic DTU under basic is least costlier. Your database will be provisioned only with 5 DTUs. If I click this, what I'm getting here, basic cost per DTU in INR 76 into 5. So it is going to cost me only 384 rupees here. You can see, right? So let us not go with this.
It is 10 rupees higher than the previous one. Yeah.
So now what I'm going to do is, previous one means
A general purpose.
We could best purchase, no?
okay. So I'm going with the standard. This will cost me 1,156 rupees. INR. Now, how many DTUs are there with the standard? So it is going with 10 DTUs, right? You can increase the DTUs, right? Here up to, under the standard, up to 3,000 DTUs. And you see how the cost is going higher, right? 3 lakhs it is, 3 lakhs 46,083. Let us go back and we'll provision it under, say, for example, the default with 10 DTUs, or let us increase it with 50 DTUs. Let us consider configure it. And my data max size, I will go with 250 GB. For that, this storage you are not going to charge. Beyond 250 GB, you will be charged. So you should avail this 250 GB, right? Let us apply on this. That is all done for this compute and storage, right? We have not talked about the storage types, right? How the redundancy is maintained. So to save the cost, I am going with local redundant, right? Your redundant is costlier than local, and then geo-redundant is more costly, right? For backups. So let us go with this, click on networking. Here, in order to secure your database, right? Most of the times in your companies, you go with private endpoint. We'll talk about private endpoint later on. Let us go with public endpoint, where my database will be publicly accessible, right? If you want to access your database from within Azure, right, allow Azure services and allow Azure services and resources to access this server, you can select yes. Most of the times you have to do yes. Add current client IP. So whatever the IP of my laptop will be right now assigned by my network provider, right? That will be added in the server level firewall rule of this database, and I will be able to access the database. So I'm saying yes. Later I will show you how this address comes and how we can add more client IPs there in the server firewall rules, right? Connection policy, let us go with default. Come to the security. I don't want to use Defender. I don't want to use Razor. I don't have any identity. Let us go with default. Then here, I simply want to create a blank database. I don't have any backup, right? I can even create that database with any backup here. I don't have any. It will ask for the backpack file. Don't have. Right, a sample database that will be AdventureWorks LG database, a OLTP database. So I don't want to do that. Here you can specify your collation settings. So this is a very important point, guys, where I have seen mistakes are always done by migration team, right? These all things coming from my experience. That's what I'm explaining you. What you have to do before you provision a Azure SQL database, right? You must gather information about the compatibility level of your database, right? Your compatibility level of the database should be handy so that while you are creating the SQL database, you can find a collision, a specific collision and specify it here. But most of the times, this is the default collision using which you can provision your database. This is the maintenance window. So behind the scenes, your Azure SQL database is running on a SQL Server instance that is running on a VM. So whenever the patching activity for security updates or upgradation of the operating system or upgradation of the database engine is required. So at what time that maintenance should be carried out for your service or for your SQL database that you have to specify here. For pay as you go, as a customer, you don't have the facility to talk with Microsoft to have your own customized maintenance window. But if your company is a premium customer or premium client of Microsoft, they can provide and specify a special time as the maintenance window as per their comfort. So this is the maintenance window or tag. Nothing I have to do with the tagging. Review and create. So this much I'm going to be charged, right? And you can see here the sizing, the standard under the GTU model under standard service tier. I am provisioning it with SKU S2. The sizing is S2 here. You can see it, right? You can download the template for automation if you wish, right? Using this template that will be creating the JSON code, right? You should have some understanding on that code so that you can modify it to have your own customized code. I don't need it right now. So let us go ahead and click on create. It will take a few seconds and my Azure single database will be created. So card is there.
Yes, I'm here.
Where you come?
Good morning.
Oh, you-
Yeah.
okay. Let it be complete. So those who are part of this existing batch have already subscribed Microsoft. Did you all have created your account?
Yes, sir.
If not, guys, use your credit card, right? Or even debit card. They will reduce only 2 rupees to have a free account. When the time will come, I will ask you to go with pay as you go. So you can go with creating the free account. I think you all should know, but anyway, I'm pinging you the link here, creating the free account. So how to create the free account from here? It should be there. This is Microsoft site. No. Create a Azure free account today. From here you can go. Start free. Yes, this is there. Right. So this is here. I'm pinging you. You can use this. Did you all get? No, this is Sam. Everyone in the meeting. Did you all get that link? Yes, everyone. Let us come back where we were. Deployment is still in progress. So behind the scenes, you see forward rules has been created. Servers, logical server was created. My deployment is completed. I will go to the resource. Resource means those SQL database. This is my database here, right? So I want to show you something more. Come to the home now and click on Azure SQL, for example. So this is the server that you see that has been created, SQL server behind the scene. This is the logical server I have been referring to, right? And if you click on this, you will see it contains a database, right? Well, it is gone. What was the database name? Wait, that is not appearing. I'm coming here. Let's just show my database also. Okay, no problem. So this is the logical server that we have created, and this is its FQDN or URL, you can say. Using this, we can connect to this database, and this is my server admin. So this has all the privileges that SSDBA has, right? This is a SQL admin, but it has all the privileges, right? So let us come to the management studio. I copied it and let us try to connect it from here. So let us go to new, sorry, not new query. Let us close it. Let us establish a new connection here. Connect and put it in the server name. By default, your Azure SQL database runs on port 1433. You don't have to specify that. Windows authentication is not supported for Azure SQL database, right? SQL Server authentication is supported, and Azure Active Directories authentication in 3 modes are supported. Universal with multi-factor authentication, where it will ask you to database. Connect to the database, then you have
So your voice is not coming.
I'm audible to you now.
Now you are audible.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the authentication methods, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory authentication. This is not basically your Active Directory. This is your Azure Active Directory authentication that is supported in these three forms with multi-factor authentication with password and integrated, right? So this time we are going with SQL Server authentication. And let us specify our username and password. This is my password should work here. And one more thing is there. Sometimes I have observed that we face issues in connecting. So at that time, you should specify your database, especially here, right? And instead of this network protocol default, you should especially specify TCP/IP, right? And to make the connection simple, although encrypted connection will be more secure, we can just uncheck it. But Azure SQL database, from security perspective, work best with these two settings: encrypt connection and trust server certificate. I am on the client operating system, so this does not apply on me. And let us go with encrypt connection. If it works fine, otherwise I will uncheck it as well. Let us see. So it goes fine. It will connect. Now let's expand this database here. You see Adventure Walks is there, right? That we created during the provisioning. Under this logical SQL server, this database got created. You see the database here, right? Under the security, expand logins, and you have the login that was created during the provisioning of the SQL database, that is Mr. Expand the system databases. You see here only master database is there, right? You don't have any other databases. But temp DB is also there behind the scenes. Okay. You don't have MSDB, you don't have model database, right? Now, the database model is always, recovery model is always full. You can't change that. Please note it down. You can't change the recovery model. You can't change the compatibility, the collation setting of the database, right? Okay, and even you can't change the compatibility level of the database. These are the things you have to keep in mind. Your Azure SQL database always runs on the latest and stable operating system, right? If you set that, it will show you SQL Server database engine, something like 12. That is the internal code of Microsoft. But I think that right now, the stable SQL Server database engine version is 19. That is what Microsoft is using, right? Next is we got connected, right? So let us use the DMA tool. And in the next class, we will explore other migration approach, such as transactional replication, backpack, export, import, right? Do we have DMA here? Database Migration Assistant, DMA. Do I have? Yes, I have. If you don't have, you can simply go to the Google and try to find it out. you should download the latest version, right? Download DMA. Not accepting, so database migration assistant. 5.7 is the latest one. You should go there and you can download. So this is the link for downloading database migration assistant. You can download it from here. Okay. This is all. For downloading it here, you can click and it will be downloaded. I already have. Perhaps it is not upgraded, right? An update or database migration assistant is available. How much time it will take? Let us cancel it. Let's go ahead. It should work without updating it. I will update it later on. Here you have to click on the plus button in order to start the migration project. So should I show you for the assessment of migration, what you want to see first?
Assessment.
Okay, let us go with the assessment. So before migrating the database, let us first assess the database. Here you should put the project name for the assessment. Anything you can say. I'm typing here PRJ1 database engine. I have the assessment type is database engine. It's not integration services. Then source SQL is my SQL server, right? It's not on RDS on AWS. And my target is Azure SQL database. Here you have Azure SQL database managed instance, Azure SQL on SQL virtual machine, and SQL server as well. Let us do that. Let us create this project, and this will do two things. It will do the database compatibility test, and it will do the checking for the feature parity as well. What are the different features and functions that will be not supported by Azure SQL database if any of those features are already using by your database. Let's click on next. And here you are asked to ask for the source server. This is for source server, right? You connect to the server and select select sources. So this is for the source server. Let us select it. And this is my source server database. So I will select it. So let us select it. Where is my DMA? Let us put it here. I'm local to this server, so I can connect with Windows authentication. I don't want to encrypt and just use the trust server certificate. Let's connect it. It got connected. I want to have assessment of this database. So here, you have to specify into the folder path containing files with extended events or traces to be assessed. So there is no extended event or traces, but still you have to specify that. So usually I specify this path here for performance log, something like that. Okay. Let's name it. Okay. And click add. And start the assessment here. Assessment will be started. Let us see if my database is compatible to migrate to Azure SQL database or not. So it's saying there is no feature parity issues with your database, and compatibility issue. There is no compatibility issue with your database, right? So we are fine to migrate, but the data size is 58.89 GB. It will take a lot of time, right? So what to do then? If I go with this migration, right? If you want to save this assessment report, click on save assessment, right? And it will be saved as, should be saved as DMF file. Just a minute. Save assessment, export assessment, JSON file, and CSV. You should use export assessment and give the name here as assessment adventure walk, something like that. You can give it, right? Let us save it. It will be saved in a Excel file here. And now you can open this.
First, you try to expand your columns here. Right. So the most important thing is here you should see your database name and the success, right? The SQL version, which is 19, right? There is no feature parity, there is no compatibility issue. You can see here, right? You can make it right. If there is a issue, right, that is issue and something.
Your voice is not clear, sir.
How is the voice now?
No, it's okay.
Okay, okay. So what I was saying, that this is your assessment report. On the basis of this assessment report, you can find that what are the compatibility issues or any kind of issue you have or functionality issue you have. Along with recommendation, it will also come here with the recommendation column. It is not coming because there is no issue. Let us go on top. So that column will come here.
Yeah, it is
What?
right side. It is right side.
Right side.
Yeah, recommendation is in right side.
Okay, so according to the recommendation, you can go ahead. Okay. So this is your report. Now let us create another project for migration. But this will take a lot of time, so I think I will be not able to complete that. Where should I go now? Let us click on new project, click migration, right? And project. Anything you can give PRJ2. This is fine. Schema and data. Schema means your complete database, a skeleton, means the definition of all the tables with its all primary keys, foreign keys, constraints, whatever is their rules, right? Then all the views, all triggers, database level triggers, functions, stored procedures, the definition, or that is simply called as the skeleton of your database. So that will be also migrated along with the data that you have in the table. A schema only means you want to migrate your database without the data of the tables. And data only, once the schema is migrated, after that, you can migrate the data. So I'm going with a schema and data. Let us click on create. Server name, perhaps we already have copied, right? So paste it. It's fine. Let us connect. We got connected and we are going to migrate this database, right? So, for example, let us first migrate this test table because it is lesser in size. We will be able to migrate this. Let us click on next. And this time now it is asking for the target server. So let us take the target from here. Let us get that. I will go with SQL authentication. And here is my username and password. Password. It's fine. It's not coming. Good connection, trust server certificate, it's fine. Target Azure SQL database permission. The principles used to connect must have control database permission. These are the important things that is required. So this migration may work, may not work. What is the demo for that? I will talk about that also. Let us click on connect. Let us see what happens then. It is connected to the target database. I want to migrate to AdventureBox. That is the same database name. Click on next. Oh, sorry. AdventureBox is selected. Oh, test database, we are migrating on AdventureBox. That's fine. So these are the 2-3 tables that we have. Right? Generate the SQL script. So many people think that a snapshot is generated of the source database.
Sir, I think test database overwrite the adventure database, sir. Migrate test database to adventure database.
It will not overwrite basically whatever data you have in the test database that will be migrated to AdventureBox database on the target because we created that, right? Got it. Deploy the schema.
But we have migrated the schema as well.
We are migrating first. The schema is being migrated, right?
Then
Whatever you have in the test database on the source, you have 3 tables. The script of 3 table, that is the schema that has been generated and that is being migrated. So that migration is done. Your schema is deployed here. You can come and see, refresh the database. Right, so you will see here, AdventureBox database now should be filled with 3 tables only. And this table should not have any data right now. See, 3 tables. Any table should not have any data because we have not yet migrated the data. No row should be there. See, when column name is there is no data. It's C1 and C2 are the columns of this table. There is no data in any table. So my schema migration is completed. Next, I have to migrate the data. So your schema is scripted, right? In order to migrate, this script is copied to the database and that is executed. The table is created. Or if let's complete it and then I will show you more. So migrate the data. These are the 3 tables. Okay, start data migration. It will be done in a few seconds. First table is done, second is done, third is in progress. That is done. My migration is complete. It's saying migration is completed. Right, I can see here now 3 tables are there. If you now get data from any table, you should have the data also. This table does not contain any data, but if I see table 1 should have some data. It means that on the source also, I should not have any data in table 3. Right, you see here in table 1, I have data. In table 2, I have data. So table 2, I don't have data. In the source also, I should not have any data. Right, in table 2 and table 3. I can say this is my source. So I should not have any data here. I don't have data. Right, in table 3 also, I don't have data. So ultimately, there is no data at all. But in table 1, I have data. So that is already migrated. Got it, guys? Now this is completed. So what I will do, I will drop these all tables from the target. So drop, this is in, which will I have? Let's open a new query window. Drop this table here, drop table. And first table is TABLE1. Table 1. Let us drop it. And you have table 2. Let us drop it. Then you have table 3. Let us drop all tables from adventure box. It's now deleted. Is that correct? Right. Let us refresh this. I should have no table now in this database. Not table. Right now, let's start this migration. I think we are being late here, but I still try to do so. Let us close it. We want to continue. Yes. Let's open a new DMA. One of the things that I want to share with all of you, that while you are migrating the database, right? So one thing you have to do smartly is, while you are provisioning your Azure single database, even though the recommendation is to go with 50 DTUs, you provision it with 100 or 2 DTUs, 200 DTUs, right? Do the migration. The migration will be faster. More the computing capability for the target server you will have, more faster migration you will have. Once the migration is done, you just, scale down your Azure SQL database from 200 DTUs to 50 DTUs. What was the recommendation? That is very good practice. It will save your time for the migration. Right, guys? You got it? Whatever I told you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this assessment itself will take a lot of time. PRJ3. Even I'm not feeling good, but still
Sir,
I can.
only for configure the PRJ2.
Just to create a project, right? It is not for configuration. You are creating a migration project in DM, right?
No, but PRJ2 save already, sir, in this project.
No problem. Create as many users.
Okay, no.
Selected. It is tested. SQL authentication. Oh, sorry. This is source. It is connected. Windows authentication connected. Connected. This time we are going with adventure box. Just deselect. Let us go with adventure box. And click on next. Now it is asking for target. So to get the target name, copy the server name from here. Very much. DMA. Let us put it. SQL Server authentication. Username is coming itself. Let us put the password here. Did. Yes. What is missing? Connect. Target is connected. Okay, next. Next, what we have to do. Preparing source database schema, right? It will take some time.
Yes, sir, because 58 GB.
That is large. So guys, one thing I want to tell you here, where you will face the problem. You come to the user section. You can't migrate Windows users. This was a question. Windows users means Windows logins and users you can't migrate.
right? For that, you will have to convert it into external user or an Azure Active Directory user. So in the user section, is it coming? Do we have user section? In your production database, definitely user section will be there. Do we have a schema, stored procedures, still these all are going to be migrated in this case, right?
Logins are instance level properties.
No, I'm talking about database users, right?
Okay.
If you see any user section is there, right?
No, sir. No,
No,
sir.
no, here it is not there, but definitely in your production there will be, right? Because the logins that you create, apart from sysadmins, right? You basically mapped it with the same name in database users. It is not correct. This is correct, right?
Yes.
So
Uh,
you will have Windows user
Oh.
inside this. Here you will face the problem. What you have to do at that time, you just unselect those Windows users from here, right? Your migration will go fine. Otherwise, you will face issues. Generate SQL script, and it will take a lot of time. So we will see this in the next class, or you do your practice with your adventure database. It will go fine. I'm 100% sure. Migrated. In the next class, we will learn a few basics of Azure SQL, basically of Azure, right? Or we will continue this migration because this is the most important thing that you have to learn as Azure SQL DBA nowadays. So I will first talk about all the migration methods and whatever the necessary terms will come in picture. Such as VNet, subnet, right? Firewall rules, database rules, right? Then network security groups, etc. We will talk during the course. So I can deploy the schema as well here, but it will take a lot of time. So the schema count you can see here 2,271 is objects are there. So it will take a lot of time. If you wish, you all can stay. It will go on, and you will be back after 5 minutes. Okay.
And I can see the access tier that they're all in. So right now, my storage account is configured by default for everything I.
Was there any question for me?
Sir, hello, am I audible?
Tell me.
As we are migrating the database name is not the same. Like earlier we have
No problem. That doesn't matter, but the best practices, you should have the same database name because your application is going to use that database. Whatever database application was using on the source, your database name should be same on the target. Your target is Azure SQL database, right? So that database name should be same. But the migration, even you have two different names of database.
We need to create database on Azure first before migrating.
Yes, using DMA, you have to do that. But using backpack, you don't have.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Using DMS, you have to create the database. Using DMA, you have to create, but using backpack, you don't need.
And Neeraj?
Rajiv, tell me.
Hi, Neeraj, you there? Sorry. I just wanted to ask, like you mentioned, that in Azure's databases, we cannot actually change the compatibility feature option. Yeah. So whatever comes within the version of SQL is what we have to use. So the question here is like, if suppose we have a scenario that we have got a very old version of SQL Server, which we intend to now get back to this Azure by using the services, migration services, then what should be the good option? Because sometimes because of the incompatibility, some features might not function after we get the data here, or we might have um, see a lot of issues during the migration. So
Right.
what do you reckon? What should be the best
Uh,
practices we should follow?
First thing, you have done the assessment, you have seen all the issues, compatibility issues, functionality issues, right? So try to fix those. You will need the help of developers and the application team to fix those. If that can be fixed, that is fine. If that cannot be, then you can go with SQL managed instance to run the compatibility report. If that is fine, you should go with SQL managed instance, but your company will have to pay more for that. If that is not fine, then ultimately your assessment should be to host that SQL server on a Azure VM, right? This is
Right.
what the
Okay.
standard you have to follow.
Okay.
I'm showing you
Okay.
because I'm the part of Center of Excellence team, also known as practice. So strictly, you have to recommend these things because that is the standard you are following, right?
Yeah.
You have to
Correct.
go with explicit solution to the customer without any, zigzag,
Mhm.
right?
Right. Yeah. 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 That makes sense. Thanks. Thanks, Neeraj.
Yeah, definitely. Today I didn't deliver performance tuning batch. I was not feeling good, but I'm surprised how I continued for about 3 hours. Yeah. Is it completed? Yes. So now you can start migrating the data, right? But I'm not migrating it right now. You see here that this itself take a lot of time. So migration will take at least, I think it's 58 GB now. So 58 GB will take near about 3 hours to complete. I'm not going to start it, right? If you have subscription, you can download AdventureWorks 2017. Actually, this should not be of 58 GB because I have a table where I have put millions of rows there. That is the copy of my sort of detailed table for performance tuning and testing. That's why you see a lot of size, 58 GB size for this. So again, even 58 GB size, migrating database 58 GB size with DMA is not recommended because it's very time taking. Your downtime will be too much. But if you are planning to do so for your test development or something like databases, you can do for that. But of course, more than I would suggest you to more than 8, 10 or 20 GB of databases should not be migrated using DMA, rather you should use DMS for that or other methods. So this is all from me, guys, for today. Let us connect on coming Saturday at the same time. The class maybe from 8 or 8:30. I will send invite to all of you. Okay, those who have not enrolled in the course, I already have linked you my WhatsApp number. You can ping me on that. I will share my account details and Paytm number with you or GPay. You can deposit the amount, but you should deposit the amount by Thursday, not after that, right? So that I can send you invite by Friday. Okay. Any question, any curiosity? If you have, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm fine to wrap up the session.
Thanks, Neeraj.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Bye. Good
Thank
night
you.
to all of you. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.